Hello, hello. Welcome to Excuse My Frenemy, the podcast where we talk about some of the big topics in sports, and where two fans of rival teams try to put their sports allegiances aside, but we will fail to do so. Thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. My name is Sean Brady, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Katie Cabrera. What is going on today, KC?
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back, and I'm glad to be back. Another show, another time to talk a lot of smack. So, Brady, I know it was a tough start of the week, but let's get right into it.
First of all, why gotta bring up old stuff? But I digress. On this episode, we will discuss the NFL playoffs, despite what I want to do. We also talk about Novak Djokovic, and we will check in on the NBA because football season is now dead to me and Katie, so we're going to start talking about other sports now. But before we move on to our first topic, I want to briefly touch on an omission from last week. I meant to include this individual when we were talking about the passing of John Madden, Betty White, but for somehow I totally did not include the passing of Dan Reeves, who died at the age of 77. He's a former Cowboys running back. I'll forgive him for that. But he's also the head coach of the Broncos, the Giants, and the Dirty Bird Atlanta Falcons from that era. He remains as the only person to have ever appeared in multiple Super Bowls as both a player and a coach. Hall of Famer, in my book. I think it's sad that they didn't get him in the Hall of Fame before his passing, but I definitely think he needs to get in. Katie, do you have any quick thoughts on the passing of Dan Reeves?
You know, I've heard of him and here and there, but I just kind of got a little more key points out of you and kind of got to see his glory a little bit. But definitely, it's a sad time for NFL, and I agree that he should be given the glory of going on the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so rest in peace, Dan Reeves. And with that, because he would probably want us to, we're going to start talking about football. So here we go. NFL playoffs. Katie, in my opinion, there were only two good games last week, and I got a feeling I know you're going to talk about one of them, but I need to ask the question, which game would you like to discuss?
Let's talk about the Rams and Cardinals. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not go there right now. Not just yet. I'll keep that one saved up.
You're fired. You don't even get paid and you're fired.
Right. Anywho, let's talk about a quick game that I voted for, the Cowboys versus Niners. Niners took that game. And let me tell you, they didn't take it completely. Like, they were in a safe zone the whole time. There was mistakes made from both parties. However, WTF throughout the whole game. So, I mean, I had a joy watching this at a bar, and I definitely had a joy out of it watching my fiance clench every time they were coming closer and closer, and Garoppolo was just throwing the ball and got intercepted. Freddie, what did you think about that game? I know you have a lot of heart about it. I know you were like, hey, did the internet go out or something on Twitter for the Cowboy fans? Because it got real quiet up in here.
First, this was like the first postseason matchup since 1995. The Niners looked good early, but then they still had a chance to put the game away. They ran the ball with Deebo Samuel. He initially rolled the first down. They remeasured, determined he was a little bit short, and the Niners lined up to do 4th and inches. Everybody knew what was coming. It was going to be a quarterback sneak, and they decided they were going to shift the line, and then Jimmy hikes the ball before everybody is set. And as soon as they did that, I said out loud, oh my God, they're going to give this away.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point where a lot of people did think that that game was going to be thrown away real quick and a Hail Mary was going to happen. That's what everybody was like, holy, holy, holy. Holy Mary's coming down. So
if they ended up losing that game, Jimmy might not have been allowed to travel back to California. It might have been that bad for him because the sole reason they would have lost would have been because of him snapping that ball too early. And that's on nobody but the quarterback.
Yeah, very true.
But then we got to get to the play that everybody is talking about. Cowboys decide with 14 seconds to go and no timeouts, they're going to run a quarterback draw. And then all hell breaks loose. The ref has to spot the ball. The teams cannot spot the ball themselves. And I've heard 9 different takes on this. I've heard they understand the play call, but they wouldn't have done it. I've heard it was a great play call. He just ran too far. I've heard, why the hell would you make that play call? I've heard the ref was out of position. I've heard they should have let him snap the ball. I've heard it all. I've heard 50 different explanations on what somebody thought of that play. But the one explanation and one opinion I have not heard yet, Katie, is yours. What was your takeaway from that play? What happened and who was to blame?
I would be completely honest with you, Brady. For me, Shawn, it was more of a WTF moment. It all happened all quick. I just saw the seconds count down to 1. And all I see is them. I see Cowboys rushing in over where the last play was, rushing over there and starting to snatch. And that's where I see the ref just run right into the team and make sure he positions the ball where it needs to be. And next thing you know, game. And I at first I was like, hold on. I'm not sure if I'm watching this correct. I'm not at home where I could rewind it real quick. But did the ref just run into the players? What's going on? And then that's when I texted you and you kind of explained it to me. And I was like, I see. So in all honesty, I think it was the Cowboys. Cowboys should have known they were not just going to turn this game around with 14 seconds on the clock. It takes a lot more. And the whole last miracle to happen. They should have known the game was coming to an end. That was it.
So because you were at a bar, then that means you did not get to hear Tony Romo's broadcast.
No.
So Jim Nantz, as Prescott takes off with the ball, you can hear Jim Nantz's voice and he takes off with the ball, like he's running with the ball. He's surprised because everybody is surprised. So he slides down, and the first thing Jim Nantz says is, I don't think this is going to work, implying that they were going to run out of time. Tony Romo's like, oh, no, they have time. They could do this. And he was factually correct, because by the time he kneeled down, there were still probably 8-9 seconds to go. Mm-hmm. But then as they were getting together, and as the ref comes running in, you just hear Tony Romo all of a sudden go, oh, no. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Like, he could not believe what was happening either. So I want to get a couple things quickly out of the way. First of all, stupid play call. Yeah. Point blank. With no timeouts, or let me rephrase. At best, a poorly executed play call. Because I get if he ran maybe 10 yards and then slid down, you would have time. But He ran like 17 yards and then slid down. Secondly, for everybody who's saying the referee was in the wrong position, I would request that you show me footage of where he was at on all the other plays, because everything I've seen, he was about the same distance on every other play, which means either he's been wrong the whole game or he was right where he needed to be. And the biggest takeaway is, why didn't they just let him snap it? Because, like I said before, teams cannot spot the ball themselves. This isn't backyard football. Somebody with an unbiased opinion has to spot the ball. And here is why. If you watch that video, Dak Prescott's knee goes down before he gets to the 25. Now, technically, it's supposed to be down as soon as he starts to slide, but that's hard to determine. But his knee, you could tell, is down before it hits the 25-yard line. The Cowboys were trying to spot it at the 23.5. Here comes the ref, and he moves it back a little bit, but he's still on the wrong side of the 25. So it could have been worse, Cowboys. Who could have moved y'all back another yard? And you would definitely had not enough time.
Yeah.
What it comes down to is either bad play call or bad execution at best. And I just find it nothing but fitting that the Cowboy season ends with piss poor clock management, which has plagued them all season long. It was fitting. But I got another soapbox I want to get on, because Cowboy season's over. They're going to complain, what have you. Here's the soapbox I want to climb. And I've said this for a few years now. Can someone please explain to me why the Dallas Cowboys are considered to be America's team?
I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you on that. They're not America's team. You know how many other teams it could be America's team?
Well, the answer to that question is one. Until Belichick is gone, it's the Patriots. For the last 2 decades, they have been America's team. And nobody can deny that. And it's just ironic that the team is actually called the Patriots of all things. But here's what bothers me. They haven't been to a Super Bowl since 95, which the last time I checked was over a quarter century ago. They haven't even been to an NFC title game since 95. They are one of 3 teams in the NFC that have not been to an NFC title game. You know who the other two are?
Who?
The Washington football team and the Detroit Lions. I do not care what stat you're involved in. Whenever you are in a group that only includes the Washington football team and the Detroit Lions, that's not good.
Yeah.
And since their last Super Bowl run, you know how many playoff games they've won?
2?
You're close. 3.
3.
You know who else has won 3 or more playoff games individually, not teams? Let me run down a list of quarterbacks that have had 3 or more than 3 playoff wins.
Brady.
Since, well, okay. He's obvious. I'm talking about ones that you wouldn't suspect. Listen to these names, and you're just going to cringe. Here's the quarterbacks that have won more than 3 playoff games in the last 25 years. Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't played in, 5 years?
Yeah.
Brad Johnson, Mark Sanchez, Trent Dilfer, and Jake Delhomme. All of them have more than 3 playoff games, where the Cowboys don't have more than 3 playoff wins as a team.
Damn.
Again, why the hell are the Cowboys considered America's team? America likes winners.
Do they now? Do they?
Well, there's 2 things America likes. Winners and comeback stories.
Yes.
But the comeback story is implied as you came back to win. So
very true. But if besides the Patriots and besides the Cowboys, who would you make America's team?
Ooh, any sport or did football?
Let's keep it down. So football.
No Cowboys, no Patriots. The first one that comes to mind is probably the Green Bay Packers.
Damn. Okay.
Mainly because they've been successful enough, and they're pretty much owned by the city of Green Bay. I don't think they have one owner. And if that doesn't scream Americana, I don't know what does. But that's the first one that comes to mind. But honestly, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought, other than the Cowboys should not be America's team. But who you got?
In all honesty, between everyone, I was thinking of them. Not the Seahawks, of course. No, not my babies. I'm not gonna say the Bucks just because Tom Brady's there.
Yeah, the Bucks have recency bias.
Yeah. In all honesty, I'm gonna have to say, damn you.
You're the one that asked the question.
I know, but it's gonna have to be the Green Bay. They have to. I guess if America had to put a face to it, it would be Green Bay. Would I vote for them? Hell no. But definitely.
But to be clear, that's if we take the Patriots off the table, because I think everybody agrees the Patriots are the front runner.
Yeah, the Patriots are the front runners of them, and then if America had to look next, it would be Green Bay.
Oh, and did you hear this? Dak Prescott apparently was asked about the fans throwing trash at the refs, and at first he thought, oh, they were talking about throwing trash at us, which no, the reporter clarified, no, they were throwing trash at the refs. And then he goes, well, credit to them then. And everybody laughed, except one person, Dak Prescott. He was dead serious. In fact, toward the end of the interview, they asked him again, were you joking? Were you serious? And he said, no, I was serious. He reiterated it. And yesterday he comes out with a apology that clearly was either league or agent induced. Because, yeah, it was a poor decision. It was like, no, you don't get to do that whole generic apology when in the moment they reiterate and ask you again, do you mean what you're saying right now? That was your out. They gave you an out, and you didn't take that. Yeah. So you didn't get to come back 2 days later and apologize for your fans putting people in danger, because that's what it comes down to.
Right. So I heard about the whole trash and he was complaining about it, but then afterward it was that kind of settlement of like, no, listen, listen, you said what you said, and now you got to do something about it. I mean, would you have complained if you were a player?
Complained, yes, but I find it disturbing that he was condoning trash being thrown at all. Because that's one of the easy ones. Like, right. You don't get to really bash on your fans, and you don't have to condone what they do either.
Right.
Like, there are certain things in sports where the automatic answer should come easily. Do you condone this? No. In fact, now think about it. Most things in sports, if they start with do you condone, the answer is probably no. even if it's just to save face.
Yeah.
But I do give his agent credit for convincing him to finally put out an apology, because you know that didn't come from him. And speaking of trash, that's right, I'm going to initiate it before Katie does.
The LA Rams versus the Cardinals. Yes, that was a trashy play from the Cardinals. Thank you. I just needed that moment. Back to you, Brady.
Ouch. Very ouch. You know, when the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, I didn't even rub it in that much. Very ouch. Very ouch.
No. You had your moment. You had your moments.
Yes, but I wasn't like yelling like the world was on fire. Mine was subtle jabs. You're just straight up like throwing bricks at me. This is mean.
The floor is all yours.
Okay. I would love to say that I'm disappointed or angry, but I think it's worse than that. I think I'm kind of indifferent as to what happened. Now, Monday night, I was not indifferent by any shape or form, because when he threw that pick six, I decided it was time to grab the car keys and go pick up my daughter from gymnastics, despite her not being out of gymnastics for another hour and a half. So I couldn't do it. I had to get away. But I saw it coming. And I think a lot of Cardinals fans saw it coming. Because remember earlier in the season, Katie, when you asked me how I felt about them starting 7-0, do you remember what my answer was? Because I do.
You did. If I'm correct, Shawn, you said it's early in the game.
Close. I said I'm cautiously optimistic. Because This is what the Cardinals do. In fact, this is what Arizona sports do. They get your hopes up and then either don't show up or worse, just fall flat on their face and have the worst luck in the world. So they finished the season, if you include the Monday night game, they finished their season 1-5. They didn't really have a really substantial win except for maybe the Cowboys in the second to last week of the season. But they were losing to games like the Lions, the Colts, who I remind you were not a playoff team, and your Seahawks, who I remind you had nothing to play for, and we had everything to play for. That alone was 3 giant red flags of this is not going to be good.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because the one thing about Cardinals fans is this. Most teams hope that their teams win, correct?
Correct.
To be a Cardinals fan, and maybe even an Arizona sports fan in general, we have been so conditioned that we go into games hoping we don't lose. I know that sounds like the same thing, but it's not.
Right.
And, Katie, it was over before halftime, actually. They went 0-9 on third down. They had 40 yards of offense in the first half, which already sounds bad, but actually sounds good when you realize they had -3 yards at the end of the first quarter. Which, by the way, that's the second worst yardage by a team in 35 years in a playoff game. At one point, Odell Beckham had more passing yards than Kyler Murray. They didn't get their first down until 6:45 was left in the first half. They didn't get their first play in Rams territory until 6:48 in the second half. Their first 8 drives resulted in either 3 and out, a fumble, or an interception. And at halftime, Kyler Murray had 7 completions. You want to take a stab at how far the longest completion he had at halftime was?
I'm gonna say, like, what, 1?
Yeah, 1 yard was his longest completion at halftime. And to be fair, it wasn't just him, because I saw multiple plays in the first half where it just looked like wide receivers stopped running for the ball. I don't know if it's miscommunication or lack of effort, but what it comes down to me is they were not prepared in any way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you why. Here's how I know they weren't prepared. First of all, Cliff Kingsbury can't adjust to save his life. That's been proven. The first drive of the game, they come out running up-tempo offense, right? They go 3 and out. Okay, it happens. First playoff game, what have you. They make the Rams punt. Second drive of the game, up-tempo, they go 3 and out. Okay, now that you've done it twice and you've done 3 and out, you don't do it a third time, because at this point, all you're going to do is gas your defense.
Right.
And you did it 2 more times. Their first 4 drives were all 3 and outs at up-tempo. And then the fifth drive was the pick six. So by then it was over.
You were done. You were just done, weren't you?
Done isn't the word. I'm actually surprised my wife didn't file divorce paperwork because she probably thought she married a madman in that first half.
Oh, so you went off.
I was, I thought I was going to lose my voice on Tuesday because I was yelling so much. There were F-bombs like you wouldn't believe.
No wonder you had to take that drive. You were like, I got to go.
Yeah. And you know it's bad when I have to purposely put myself in Bay Area traffic to calm down. Because Bay Area traffic normally gets my blood pressure up.
That is very true.
So the last thing I want to cover on it is Cliff Kingsbury. A lot of people are saying he needs to be fired. And I am not one of them, but only for two reasons. One, the team did improve. Mm-hmm. So, and granted, the hot start led to a disappointing finish, but they did improve. Two, I remember what it was like before Cliff Kingsbury showed up. It was not good. There's a reason we had Kyler Murray as the first pick in the draft, because we were terrible. So I hesitantly say, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that are pointing to if he gets fired, I'm not surprised. First of all, you've had back-to-back seasons where you had second-half collapses. Because last year, I don't know if you remember, last 3 games of the season, they had to win 1 game to make the playoffs, to clinch a playoff spot. 2 of those games were against backup quarterbacks. We lost all 3 games. It did not make the playoffs. So you had that collapse. And then you obviously had what happened this season, highlighted by the complete lack of preparedness during the wildcard game. But Katie, it goes even worse than that. Collapsing in the second half is what Cliff Kingsbury does. Then you run down how he's closed out seasons since 2013. With Texas Tech, 2013, lost 5 of his last 6. 2015, lost 4 of his last 6. Same thing for 2015. 2016 and 17, loses 6 of the last 8. 2018, loses his last 5 games, and that's when he gets hired by the Cardinals. 2019, they lost 7 of the last 9. But to be fair, they weren't good. They weren't prepared. The previous year, they had the first pick for a reason. So that one doesn't surprise me. Last year, they lost 5 of their last 7 games. And this year, they lose 5 of the last 6. He has lost 47 of the last 61 games in the second halves of seasons. Yeah. So as much as I'm saying maybe he shouldn't be fired, it's hard for me to argue with anybody who says that he should be fired. So there you go. And with that, I have vented. I'm getting off my soapbox. And now I'm ready for the bullets. Go ahead and bring them, Katie.
I got nothing.
Wait, did I just do the Eminem thing where I just put out all the stuff so bad that you feel guilty for talking smack back?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I can't even talk smack. Have you not seen the Seahawks where they're at? They didn't even make it, dude. So, I mean,
wow, I pulled the Eminem. Tell someone that they don't already know about me. Here we go.
So, I'm here to say that, better luck next year. And after that,
for both of us, yeah.
For both of us, on all honesty, I would love to see the Seahawks make it up there, but I mean, it was only one play in specific where I was just kind of like, wow. And you know which play I'm talking about?
Would that be the play you texted me in the height of my misery? Thank you, by the way. Great friend.
Yes, that was the one. The one I specifically snapped and sent it towards you. Yes, that's the one.
Let's go positive. Let's look ahead. Enough of the past. Who lives in the past?
Yes.
Predictions for this weekend. Here we go, Katie.
All right.
The Cincinnati Bengals are going into Tennessee to play the Titans. Katie, what do you got?
I got the Bengals. Bengals all the way.
Me too.
Oh!
Yeah, I know. The season ends and now all of a sudden we agree.
Yeah.
So, but I want to tell you what. But I will admit the Bengals is more of a heart pick than a head pick because I also think Derrick Henry might be coming back, and that's a big might. If he comes back, I think my answer completely changes. But I heard a stat that just made me say I have to ride with the Bengals until they're out. Katie, they're the first team to have a 4,000-yard quarterback, a 1,000-yard running back, and 2,000-yard wide receivers all under the age of 25.
Jeez.
until the salary cap situation gets them, they're going to be good for a while.
And I honestly believe that the Bengals are going to make it past this round, going into the third round. Then, depending on who they're going to be versus, I think that's where a little trouble starts to occur. But I think this one, they're going to have it under the bag. So,
oh, no, I think this is their last game, too. Or their last victory, I should say. Because whoever they play next week, I think they're going to lose. Because in both instances, they're going to be on the road.
Yep.
Well, I was saving that one for the end, but seeing how we brought it, let's jump into it. The other AFC game, which I personally think is the AFC title game. Buffalo Bills are going to be going into Kansas City. Katie, who you got?
I got the Chiefs on this one. Let's go, Mahomes.
Stop stealing my answers.
I mean, in all reality, though, watching the Buffalo play against the Patriots, I mean, they demolished the Patriots, but then again, the Patriots were not completing. So I saw the Chiefs versus Steelers, and the Chiefs just took that SHIT home. So once again, Chiefs.
With a caveat, though. They took it home after the first quarter.
I agree.
All right, so we're 2 for 2. Let's go to the next one. The San Francisco 49ers, which should be the Santa Clara 49ers, but I digress, are going to Lambeau Field to play the Packers, who had the first round bye. Katie, who you got?
Heart-wise, Niners.
I feel there's a butt coming on.
There ain't if there's a knife in behind me, but no. I am a smart woman.
So, for folks that don't know, Katie's face is telling me that she wants to pick the Packers, but she's afraid of domestic violence if she picks the Packers.
You know what they say, happy wife, happy life. So, yeah, let's go Niners. You know? I know, Brady, I know this one's going to be an opposite, so go ahead and hit me with it.
Again, there's something in the water, because I think the Niners are winning too.
You think the Niners are going to win?
Because the one weakness Green Bay has is run defense. And the Niners proved against the Cowboys they can run. Having said all that, the other side does have Aaron Rodgers, so I don't pretend to think it's going to be easy, but I will say this. If the Niners play like they played against the Cowboys, they're going to lose.
Right. They have to go ahead and clean up the mistakes. If the mistakes are cleaned up and they know what their plays are going to be like, and our quarterback could get them to where they need to be without any mistakes again, I think we got a good chance of winning against Green Bay. And in all honesty, I want them to win.
Whoa. Did I just hear you right? When discussing the San Francisco 49ers, did you just use the term our quarterback?
Yeah. You know.
Wow. You're being converted. You don't even know it.
No, I'm not. I'm crying.
Yeah, so Niners have to have a disciplined game, and they have to have ball control, and they have to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. That is a lot of have to things to happen for them to win, all of which could be nullified by Aaron Rodgers. So
right.
I'm taking the Niners, but I'm nervous.
Same. But does that leads me to my next question. Will Bosa be back after that injury?
All signs point to yes. Him and why am I brain jumping on who the other player that was hurt? Warner.
Warner. Mm-hmm.
Well, all signs are pointing to both of them being able to play. Yeah. Oh, again, I need mouthwash after that topic. But it's like picking the lesser of two evils. Do I want to cheer for the Niners or cheer for Aaron Rodgers? Okay.
This next one is going to kill me too.
Gee, I'm pretty sure I know where you're going on the next one. The Los Angeles Rams are going to Tampa to play Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Katie, who you got?
Heart says LA Rams, but the mind says Bucks. Rams, Bucks. Rams, Bucks. The Bucks.
Damn it! 4 for 4. Again,
I mean, if we're like you said, if we're not picking from heart, it is the Bucks that will be taking the LA's Ram home. But if it's heart talking, I will say LA because LA's home. But let's be realistic. The Bucks will take this one.
Yeah, we're 4 for 4 because I agree because again, the Buccaneers are my other Super Bowl pick. So if I'm going to have any shred of integrity and loyalty, I need to pick the Bucks.
Yeah.
But one caveat I will say, the Bucks did take their foot off the pedal against the Eagles. To me, that was clear. The Rams, if they come in with the same motivation that they had against the Cardinals, that's going to be a much closer game than people think. Because remember, they played earlier in the year, and the Rams won. But that was in L.A. in Week 3. Now they got to go to Tampa and do this.
I agree. I agree with you, Brady.
All I know is I need to go brush my teeth. I need mouthwash because us going 4 for 4, like I feel a headache coming on. What the hell is going on? Okay, Katie, we've talked football quite a bit. Now let's move on to another topic.
Can we talk about something else?
Okay, our next topic is Novak Djokovic and his, let's just say, adventures with the Australian government for the Australian Open. Adventures works? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I will summarize this as best I can, but this basically took place over the span of 2 weeks where Djokovic goes to Australia because he had apparently been granted an exemption from being vaccinated to participate in the Australian Open, which is a requirement to enter the country of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
He had exemptions. At one point during his application, he did check that he had not traveled anywhere outside the country for 14 days. More on that to follow. Once he gets there, because he's not vaccinated, the agents, they go ahead and detain him. And the short version of a long story is they said he can't come into the country because he's not vaccinated. He appeals in federal court, which that judge says he is allowed to enter the country because they did not give him enough time to speak with his lawyers before their decision to deny him entry into the country. Then Australia's immigration minister revokes Djokovic's visa again, saying it was, quote, it was in the public interest to do so, end quote. Basically used his own personal discretion to say, no, I am authorized to cancel this if I see fit, and I am choosing to do so. Djokovic's attorneys immediately appeal, and through what is clearly a rushed process because the Australian Open is currently going on right now, Djokovic appeals. They have like a 5-hour hearing to where it's unanimously decided that he cannot enter the country and needs to be deported. Now, the interesting part about it is he traveled there under the assumption that he had exemptions, which I don't fault him for that. If I was told I could come, I would come too. The issue, I think, mainly stems from, remember when I said he said that he checked no on his form saying he hadn't traveled outside the country?
Yes.
His social media accounts say otherwise, saying he was not only in Serbia, but I believe he was in Spain, all within 2 weeks before going to Australian government or to the Australian Open. So that's what they banked on, I think, to say, hey, you were granted this exception, but it was based off of documentation that was incorrect, if not fraudulent, because he has said, hey, that was human error. I didn't intend to do that. To me, that's irrelevant because the fact that he said no is what they banked on, saying, hey, we granted you this exception, but it was based off information that turned out to be incorrect. So this obviously opened up a lot of feelings for folks. And I don't want to go down the political rabbit hole of COVID, but I think all parties kind of acted appropriately. Djokovic going down there, thought he had an exemption. I'm fine with that. Once they realized his paperwork had discrepancy, I think they did the right thing in saying, hey, you know what? You need to go away.
Right.
Now, there is one twist to this. Apparently, when you're deported from Australia, it also comes with an automatic 3-year ban to re-enter Australia. That, I think, is a bit much. I don't think, given the fact that he had belief that he could enter the country, I don't think there should be a 3-year ban for him ever going back. I think that should be waived. But, Katie, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I know I've talked for a while. I've tried to sum up and simplify a magnitude of information that was very confusing for a lot of people for a lot of time. I hope I did a good job for the audience. But Katie, do you have any thoughts on this?
I agree with you when it comes down to the, being not being allowed to travel to Australia for 3 years, it's kind of, in this case, it's kind of like you could waive that. However, the teams on both appropriate sides did do their dues, and they admitted that it could have been a faulty error or whatever not that he did on his forms, but they still said, okay, we understand the whole situation with it, but at the end of the day, if if I'm correct, he was notified about his PCR results being he showing to him later after his play date, correct?
Well, no, I kind of skipped that because to me that added just a layer of confusion. But what you're talking about is at some point between his, I want to say December. I don't have the date in front of me. But I want to say sometime in December he tested positive for COVID. And that was part of the reason he was given an exemption. I think it's because he has shown that he recovered from COVID, and apparently the antibodies was grounds for the approval. That's a bunch of medical terminology that I did not understand, so I kind of left that out because I wanted to sound a little smarter than I really am. But the issue that came from that was he found out he tested positive almost immediately after he did a event with a bunch of children where they were not masked and they were not doing social distancing. They were doing photo ops, things like that. So that raised one red flag. But I think the bigger red flag was the day after he found out, he did a interview with a French newspaper. And the problem with that, besides the fact he had COVID, is nobody told the journalist or the photographer that he had tested positive before, during, or after. To me, that's just inhumane. Sorry. You need to let people know this is going on. Because you could conduct that interview over the phone, as far as I'm concerned. But you got to give those folks that choice. So I think that pissed off a lot of people. But that's kind of what started his whole medical exemption.
Okay.
But speaking of France, the French Open, which is not until May, so there's time that this could change, he may not be able to play in the French Open now because France just passed a law that people have a requirement to be vaccinated if they're going to do any public places such as sporting venues, restaurants, cafes, trains, and there's zero exceptions. None. Basically, I guess if you got a medical problem, they're going to tell you to stay home anyway.
Right.
But now, granted, that's in May. A lot can happen between now and then. But now a lot of people are wondering if he's even going to be able to play in the French Open.
It's a lot going on. I can't speak as a medical person. COVID, you could recover from COVID quick, but the results of you showing negative might not be quick enough as your recovery, if that makes sense. So I do also agree about the 3 years. I think that's a little too much. However, it's hard, Brady. The situation is kind of hard. It's not an easy one. It's not a light one. And definitely, I agree. He should have said something to the reporters and also to the photographer, because I mean, COVID it's a big deal when it comes down to spreading. So you don't want to just spread someone that whose immune system might be weak or something else, and it goes into depth about that. Like they could have gone worse, but if he knew about it, he should have said something if they were comfortable of being around him. But
and the funny part is that's what's buried in all this is people are more pissed off the fact that he was deported from Australia than the fact that he may have potentially exposed COVID to somebody. And again, I'm not trying to get political, but I will say if you are going to another country, you abide by that country's rules and decisions.
Exactly.
Like, your personal opinions mean absolutely nothing. Like, again, I think he should have been able to go down there because of his exemptions. But at the same time, I recognize that they had the right to review those exemptions because information had changed and they reserve the right to change their mind. To me, that's the end of the story.
And I definitely agree with you on that. But in this case, it's a definitely hard situation. I mean, is he still going on trial?
No, they deported him. No, he's back.
That was it. That was it.
That later that day after his appeal went through, he was on a plane later that night, which is also funny because do you know where they flew him back to?
Where?
Dubai. Because that's where he flew into Australia from, which again means you were in another country prior to entering Australia. That alone should have been a red flag of, Now, you know what? Let me back up. Maybe he had a connection in Dubai, for all I know. But unless he had a connection in Dubai, you were in another country on top of Serbia and on top of Spain that you said you weren't in. So it could be even worse now I'm thinking about this.
It could go worse. It's a lot worse. I mean, this is a situation that's hard. It's hard. It's not taken light. There's a lot of precaution that he needed to do and stuff, but I don't know.
Okay, that was a little too close to political for me, so we're going to do a quick turn. We're going to talk about another sports topic now. Okay, our final topic for this episode, because it was dominated by NFL, is we're going to talk about the NBA a little bit, because despite contrary belief, that season has been going on for quite a while now, and nobody, at least not on this podcast, has been paying much attention. So now that both of our seasons are over in football, we can start looking into NBA, and I'm not going to lie to you, Katie, I haven't been following it all that well, other than following the Phoenix Suns on Twitter and listening to the Warriors on sports radio here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just now looking at the NBA for the first time, but there's some things that I instantly noticed when I started looking at it. So what I want to do, I want me and you to go ahead and take a surprising team and a disappointing team from each conference. So, okay. Katie, let's start with the Eastern Conference, because I think we know where we're going on the Western Conference. It's pretty, if you listen to this podcast, you know where we're going on those ones. So Eastern Conference. Katie, who is your surprise team of the Eastern Conference so far?
So one big surprise for me is going to be Cleveland, which I think they're doing pretty good. But however, I would have thought Cleveland would have been actually top 3. So I thought it could have been Chicago, Miami, and Cleveland in any order. And one disappointment for me is Orlando. Why?
Why Orlando?
8-37. Why?
They're worse than you thought they'd be, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I only have one question for your surprise.
Okay.
You honestly thought at the beginning of the season Cleveland was going to be a top 3 team?
I did. I honestly thought that Cleveland was going to be one of the top 3 teams.
So Katie, I agree with you on Cleveland being the surprise, because that's the first thing I noticed too, because outside Kevin Love, and I know they recently traded for Rajon Rondo, I can't name another member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But you stole that one, so I have to look at the standings now, and I got to figure out who else I'm going to say. And I'm going to go ahead and give it to Chicago, because they're the top team in the conference right now. And I'm not saying I didn't think Chicago would be good, but I was pretty confident that Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and maybe even Philly were all going to be better than Chicago. So it may be a combination of disappointment in those teams, but kudos for Chicago to taking over the top spot in the East. So my disappointing team, I don't even think it's close in my opinion. It's the Atlanta Hawks. Because this is a team that last year was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're 7 games under 500 the last time I checked. That's not good. I don't know what's going on with them. Like I said, I haven't been paying a lot of attention, so I don't know what's going on with their roster where all of a sudden they're so much worse than last year. But when I looked at the standings, I was floored to see them all the way down in the 12th spot. That's weird. So my disappointment is Atlanta. Okay, Katie, to the Western Conference, the best conference, as I like to say. Who is your surprise team and who's your disappointment?
Disappointing team is going to be my LA Lakers. I expected them to be one of the top 3, but no, they're like all the way down there. So, you know what? Let's not talk about it, Brady. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's go to, I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it, the surprise team.
Bring it. I know it. I got a feeling what you're going to say. Bring it. Come on.
Let's talk about Phoenix being number 1.
Yes!
And the Warriors being number 2. But let's go back to my number 1 pick of being a surprise team. Phoenix. How? What? But you know what? I want you to have this glory moment.
I am so happy. Yeah, I have officially recovered from the Cardinals' loss to hear you say the Suns are your surprise team. I am grinning from ear to ear. I feel validated. Okay, so my surprise team is the Memphis Grizzlies because not only are they a top 4 team in the conference, they're one of the top 4 teams in the league. And I know they had just come off of a nice long winning streak, but the reason they surprised me is outside John Morant, Katie, can you name one member of the Memphis Grizzlies?
No.
Neither can I. And the fact that a team that I can't even name a player off of is in the top 4 in the league, yeah, you get my applaud for being my surprise team. Now, my disappointing team is Denver. Here is why. They were, I want to say, the 3 seed last year in the playoffs. They had the MVP. They were a legit good team. The last time I checked, Katie, their record is 22-20. They are hovering around 500. Now, granted, I know they're the 6th seed, but there's a big jump between Denver and Dallas. There's a 3-game jump there, and then there's a 6-game jump between Dallas and Memphis. So the fact that they're 6th seed is kind of misleading because they're only 2 games over 500. To put it in comparison, if you look at the 6th seed on the Eastern Conference, it's the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're 7 games over 500. It's more of their record than their seeding. But yeah, you got the MVP. You're coming off a good season last year. I expected you to be better in 2 games over 500. So they're my disappointing team so far.
Okay, this is interesting.
So that concludes our episode for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Katie, where can the folks find you?
You guys could always find me at KitKat17287 on Twitter. Brady, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter as well at Sean_Brady82. And if they want to tweet the show, they can tweet us at ExcuseMyFrenemy. We're also found on Google. Just Google Excuse My Frenemy. We should be the first lovely faces that pop up on your screen. Katie, what do you say we do it again next week?
Down to do it, Brady. I'm looking forward for it.
All right, I'll see you then.
All right.